Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
The main event, man. Cory Sandhagen goes in there and defeats Chito Vera via split decision. We'll get to the split decision part, but Sandhagen, man, he was so impressive. He is just showing his improvement, and I think a lot of people just linger on the losses that he's had, and don't look at the improvements that he's made throughout the years. Spencer, what did you think about how he performed? And then every round, it just seemed like he was getting better and better. What did you see?
I mean, he fought the way that I expected him to. I think he fought the way you need to fight Chito Vera. And that's right out of the gate. You know he's going to be a slow starter. So get after him and show him all those different looks. The thing that Cory Sandhagen does really well and did really well on Saturday is he's switching the stances and it's different looks. And the commentators talked about it throughout, right? He gives you so much that you have to think about. And in these last few fights, he started mixing in the wrestling even more as well. And so that becomes another piece of it. And so it felt to me like, especially through those first two rounds, it was just too much for Chito to deal with. And as Sandhagen starts slowing a little bit, as Chito starts figuring out, okay, he can do all of these different things. You saw him start stuffing the takedowns a little bit. But by that point, he's 2 rounds down. He's taken a bunch of punishment, not in a bad way, not that he was ever in dire straits or anything like that. Chito Vera has an incredible ability to not show any damage ever. But like, you just get down and it just felt to me like a little bit of that spirit was taken out of Chito early. Now, maybe it was he didn't have it to begin with, and we sort of saw that in between rounds as he talked with his coach, Jason Perillo, who was really trying to egg him on throughout. But Sandhagen just stayed on the gas. He just stayed doing all the things that he's done. And you mentioned the improvements, the developments. I look at that loss to Petr Yan, which was a close fight, a competitive fight. And I think he came out in that fight a little too fast, a little too aggressive, and it cost him later in the fight. And since then, he's metered that off a little bit, and he's figured out that right rhythm and that right output for him. And he's looked great since.
Yeah, he looks like, if I was a guy fighting him, he looked like a guy that would be confusing to figure out in that fight. He's just the movement. It's just he's just always moving, and he's always attacking from a different angle, shooting for takedowns. Man, he looked incredible. Like, I don't understand like why people would say that was a boring fight. Like, I love that fight. That was like the highest level of MMA you could watch. And Chito, maybe he, his last couple of fights, right? He was able to like chill, kick back, and then
Right.
and pull out the shotgun at the end and just boom, you know what I mean, and win the fight. And maybe he was relying on that a little too much in this one. Maybe he was. Do you think so?
I don't know if he was necessarily relying on it. I think that's a piece of Chito that's always there, right? He's a guy that doesn't mind getting down because he knows he's got that shotgun, as you aptly put it. We even saw in the first round, right? Sandhagen takes him down, and right away, Chito does what he does of like framing off the head, landing elbows, cut Cory Sandhagen immediately. Those are all good things. The point where he gets in trouble is that the offense just isn't enough for him to be, when you can't pull out that shotgun, when it's not there, or it just won't rack properly, then it's like, oh, what do I do? And it felt to me watching it like he didn't really have that what do I do? There wasn't the answer to that question of, okay, I'm not going to hit this guy with one shot. So I've got to really change up what I'm doing and come out and be more volume and be more pressure and be more pace. And then the other piece of that is that Cory Sandhagen is just a pain to deal with. Like, the thing that he does so well that I think is a differentiation point between him and a lot of other elite competitors. And again, they spoke about it during the fight itself. He doesn't have to reset ever. He can fight from both stances. He's got power in both hands. He's fluid with each limb. And so where some people have to throw their shot and then get back and reset into their orthodox stance or their southpaw stance, every shot he throws, wherever he ends up, however he lands, cool, this is how I'm going to fight. So I never give you an opportunity where I'm not coming forward and in your face and hitting you with something. And I think it was just one of those nights where I bet you if you asked Chito today or tomorrow how he felt in the back, he would say, you know what, I just couldn't get loose and I didn't feel like I have it. Like he didn't look like himself running to the octagon on Saturday night. And Cory Sandhagen was the exact opposite. Came out and looked great and put it on him.
You're right. That could be it. You know, I mean, fighters do have off nights where they just don't feel it. They just can't get warmed up. They just can't hit that second gear and or the third gear or whatnot. And Cory Sandhagen, man, all credit to him for putting in a game plan where Chito couldn't get into the second gear or the third gear. He was just stuck at gear one and landed a couple hard shots throughout the fight. But there was no round, I don't think, where Chito Vera won at all. I don't understand like what one of the judges saw where he scored the 3 rounds to 2 for Chito. That just is blasphemous. I don't know, man. Like it's just
Cory
crazy.
Sandhagen's face when they said 48-47 Vera was all of our collective faces of like, wait, what? I said to my wife when it was done, when I went downstairs, like, I can't see at all how anybody would have scored, yet alone 2 rounds. Like, to me, it was a shutout. To me, it was 50-40-45. If not, you throw in some 10-8s in there for those first 2 rounds, whatever. But like, where's the 1 round Chito won? Yet alone 2, never mind 3. And so it, of course, is a relatively inexperienced at this level judge from Texas that you just go like, what are we doing? I get that you want to get these men and women opportunities. You want to give them chances to prove themselves, to learn, to gain experience. That's not how you do it.
It's crazy that Sandhagen and Vera, they're the same age, but you look at them and you think like Vera's much, much older, right? Like he has an aura around him that's different. And Sandhagen, man, he's hitting in his prime, man. I think Sterling showed like what you need to do against Sandhagen. You need to slow him down, put him on the ground. But man, his ground game is getting better. He wasn't afraid to go to the ground. He took down Vera to show like, yo, we're gonna go to the ground too, and you're not gonna know what I'm gonna do throughout this whole fight. And even if I have to get a decision win, I'm gonna get a decision win, because at the end of the day, at that level, like at the top 5, all that matters is you win. It doesn't matter how you win, right? Because even a split decision, controversial split decision, that will get you a title shot, right? Because why? You won the fight. It doesn't matter what Dana White thinks about how the judges score the fight. It's just you won, right? Because we've seen guys on the other side where they didn't deserve the split decision win, and then they got a title shot, right? In the past.
TJ Dillashaw won a debated split decision over Cory Sandhagen, and then was off for a year and then fought for a title. So it happens. And I mean, hopefully nobody lingers on that split decision. Nobody looks at it down the road and is like, it becomes another one of those fights where like, look, it was scored a split decision, but they're stupid and he won clearly. And we sort of qualify it and we talk about the asterisks all the time. But I mean, he looked great, and he's always been that guy to me in this division that has, of all those elite fighters, and we'll excuse Henry Cejudo for right now because he had been on the shelf. Cory Sandhagen to me was always the most complete of these guys, right? Because he could do a little bit of everything. Now, Aljo showed in coming out and jumping on his back and being the human Jansport that he is, this is a way to beat him. I can have my specialty. Merab Dvalishvili would be a super interesting fight because we saw what Merab did to Petr Yan a couple weeks ago. But Sandhagen's a problem, man, because he can do everything. And give me Sandhagen and Dvalishvili as soon as we can. Like sometime this summer, let's go. Give him 5 rounds and let them get after it.
Yeah, do kids even wear Jansport anymore? Is that a thing?
I don't know. It's still just, I mean, Aljo said it. Aljo said it once, and I was like, yep, I'm holding on to that forever.
Okay. Yeah. I guess, because he's much younger than me. So, when I was a kid, when I was in middle school, Jansport was the thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, old school reference. I guess
right. I appreciate
it might be still around. It's an interesting position you have for Sandhagen, and I thought he made a mistake by calling out Merab. Not a mistake as in like it's a mistake of like the fight being a mistake, because I feel like he's skilled enough to beat Merab, man. People think Merab has become this mythical character that can't be beaten. There's nobody that can't be beaten in that division. You know what I mean? He's lost already. You know what I mean? To twice, I think, in the UFC already. So
lost split decision in his debut, and then lost to Ricky Simone in his second fight where he got choked out, put to sleep at the end of the fight itself.
To me, the more impactful fight, the more interesting fight is the Sean O'Malley fight, because of the striking, because of the movement. And I feel like that would draw more attention to Cory Sandhagen, because Cory Sandhagen is not here to talk trash and degrade people. But the only way to get more people on your side is to beat the guy that is garnering all the attention. And I feel like Sean O'Malley garners the most attention in that division, not Merab. Merab has a fan base. He has a country behind him. But, you know, I think he should have been calling out Sean O'Malley. You know, throw something out of left field, because he's been talking about Merab the whole week. And then you come to the post-fight interview and you go out there and you say, oh, Sean O'Malley, where you at? You know, are you scared? You know what I mean? Like, you could throw some of those in there. So
he was talking about wanting to call out I think his original intention going into the week was to call out Sean O'Malley and say, look, really? that's the next guy. And just before we jumped on, I was reading something where they talked to him Saturday after his fight and his post-fight availability. And they were like, I thought it was going to be Sean O'Malley. And he was like, look, it seems like the UFC wants him for the next title shot. So he's just kind of hanging out and waiting his turn. I know Merab is a guy that just wants to stay active, wants to fight within 3-4 months. That's the fight I can get. He also said he thinks Merab is a tougher test, is a more interesting test, given what he just did to Petr Yan. I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I'm with you. If you want to give me Cory Sandhagen and Sean O'Malley, I will take it every day and twice on Sundays. But I'm okay with him calling out Merab, and because they're two guys that just want to stay active, right? O'Malley seems like he's waiting to see what happens with Aljo and Henry Cejudo. Fine. Get those other two in there in June or July, and away we go.
Yeah, the whole Merab and Aljo situation where they're like friends and they won't fight each other unless you give them a lot of money, which means they'll fight each other. At the end of the day, that's what they're saying, right? If you give me a lot of money, we're going to fight each other. Then you're going to fight each other. That's what it sounds like. Like, I don't understand why you don't want to give opportunities to your friend or give opportunities for each other to advance in your career. You know what I mean? Like, especially if it's at the highest level. If it's for the title, then that could be an excuse to go in there and fight each other, right? If it's for like number one contender, I could see why you wouldn't fight each other.
That's what we always heard, right? From these guys from the same camp, training partners, things like that, close friends. Well, we're not going to fight unless it's for a title. The only way these two dudes are going to fight is if it's for the title, because Aljo's got the belt and Merab's number one. Now, if Aljo doesn't retain the title, that's another conversation. But as you said, like, if it's for the title, you're both getting extra pay for it being a championship fight. Why not? Like, you fight each other every day in the gym.
Every day.
You battle every day in the gym. Why not get paid? Why not go out there and get paid? One of you is leaving with gold. One of you gets a loss. Nobody's feeling bad for it. There's not going to be any bad blood. There's not, Aljo's not going to get up there and talk mess about Merab. Reverse isn't going to happen either. Go get paid. Go fight for a belt. Fight each other for the belt.
I wish they would just take the pro wrestling approach and just create a fake feud with each other, even though they're friends behind the scenes. They just create a fake feud with each other, you know what I mean? And because they probably talk to each other about it, right? Fighting each other or not fighting each other.
I mean, Aljo would be a great heel. He would. He's built to be a heel. Exactly. Just all of a sudden super kick him through the window of the barbershop. There you go.
They could choreograph the whole thing, right? And because nowadays everything is choreographed, right? The whole, like, I ran into him backstage and we went face to face, and then all these cameras are out and they're facing each other and they're talking a little smack. Yeah. Him and it
Cejudo. Just so happens we caught this on camera. Sure.
Exactly, right? And they could even have their little teammates, right? Have a little dust up at Extreme Couture one day.
Sparring goes a
Exactly.
little hard. You get a few of the other guys that are there in there. Get Eric Nixick involved.
Yeah.
Dennis Davis. Get everybody picking sides and pulling them apart, and everybody gets paid.
The UFC would be all about that. Nowadays, you
Oh God, could
understand.
you imagine best friends, training partners, all these years? Suddenly it's a blood
They're
feud and
enemies?
they're enemies. Yeah, it'd be great.
We've had it. Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal, and look at what that morphed into, right?
Yep.
They fought each other, and I don't, even if it's fake, it's still something the casual fans wouldn't even pick up on. They would just think it's real, and they would love it. They would click on it, right? TMZ, you know what I mean? They would hop on it like that.
Yeah.
That's what they want. The UFC wants the mainstream, so to say, mainstream media to hop on and promote the UFC. And if that's the way you can do it, why not? Why not do it? And you get paid, sponsorships, all of that good stuff. Merab's the good guy, the immigrant mentality, and Aljo is
Aljo's
bad
the
heel.
entitled champion. Yeah,
exactly, right. It's
going on his
almost
podcast, running down his former friend.
Yeah,
Be great.
Be great. Hit him with a chair or something.
Brought him out here to Vegas, let him stay at my house. He didn't pay me any rent, wouldn't pay for groceries, had to kick him out.
He stole my jewelry.
We got you. We got you all set, guys.
He stole my jewelry, and then Merab's wearing his jewelry in an interview. Why not? Why?
Big gold chain. Perfect. Aljo, Merab, we got you sorted out. Give us a shout.
Exactly.
Oren Hodek, KO reps. Get in my DMs. We'll make this happen.
It works. You know why it works? It's because Colby Covington's doing it all the time. Right now, as we speak, he's doing it, and people are eating it up, right? Like you and me, we know what's going on. It's like it is what it is. But the people, the regular people, the fans of the sport, they are eating it up. Even if they hate it, they're clicking on it, right? And you could create a narrative if you really wanted to, but these guys, they don't want to do that at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's a fantasy for us. We would love to see it.
I appreciate them not doing it. Like I appreciate I talked to Merab before his fight with Piotr Jan and asked him about it. Like, what's it mean that Aljo is willing, right? Has said, like, if I'm standing in the way of my guy fighting for the title, I will give up the belt and go up. Now, some of that is the weight cut is miserable and he thinks he can compete at 45, which I think he certainly can. I would challenge Alex Volkanovski before I gave up the belt. Then I would do that. But he was like, look, what more can I ask for? Like, this is my best friend. This is one of my closest friends in the world. And he's willing to do that for me. Like, why would I ever fight somebody that's willing to do something that magnanimous for me? I'd love for them to fight. It'd be great. The feud that we just cooked up would be amazing, but it is also pretty cool to see that relationship the way that it is at the top of that division.
Yeah, you could respect it, right? But then it's like
still want
there's only a short window for these fighters, and it's like the NFL. You only have a certain amount of years where you can make the most amount of money for the highest level of the athletes, right?
Yep.
And you got to take advantage of that. If you don't, are you going to regret it 15 years down the line when you're working as an Uber driver? Because I was watching a video talking about these like crypto millionaires that are Uber drivers now because they lost all their money because they spent it during that window and pretty much spent it on nothing. And now they're at the bottom of the barrel. And that could be happening. We know how the story ends for a lot of fighters, right? They don't take advantage of the moments, and then later on they regret it. So I hope that they don't regret like not fighting each other, because that's a big payday. And you mentioned Piotr Jan. I guarantee you he will fight his best friend for the title. Like that would be no problem.
There's zero hesitation with it. Cory Sandhagen too, right? Like if his best friend was in the division, they would dap it up and then they would get after it.
Yeah. And Cory, him working with Ryan Hall, I think that's something that we got to really watch, because he got choked out by Aljo, and I think that really put a fire underneath him, and he's working very close. He was in the corner, right? Yep. He was one of the cornermen. He has a really, really, really good corner. He has his head coach. I think his name is Christian something.
Yeah, Christian Allen.
And then you got Coach Banks, who's also a fighter, his wrestling coach, and you got Ryan Hall, phenomenal corner right there. And those guys are building a champion right now, and you guys need to watch that. If you're not paying attention to Cory Sandhagen, those guys are building a champion right now. He's going to be fighting for the title in the next year, I believe.
Yeah, the adjustments he's made since those two close fights, and it's small stuff, right? If you're not watching them every fight, if you're not paying close attention, you can miss it. But he's made adjustments. We've seen it in terms of the wrestling and mixing that in more. That's, as you said, Carrington Banks, very good wrestling coach, fighter himself. Christian Allen has always had the striking on point. The Ryan Hall edition is interesting, right? Because the Wizard don't play on the ground, and if you're going to be there, right, you're adding the wrestling in. If you're going to be there, that's a dude that I want telling me some different stuff that I can try and that I can get into. We saw him looking for a couple of things yesterday against Chito in those early rounds. Nothing was there for him, but just to have that in the back pocket of like, I've continued to work with Ryan Hall, who has shown me X, Y, and Z, makes him more dangerous going forward.